improve your listening, vocabulary, comprehension, and even your reading only in this one lesson. Hello and welcome to Zahid's English Club. You are about to improve your listening, your vocabulary, your comprehension, and even your reading. How we are going to do this and what we are about to do. I have prepared for you 5 short stories, and there will be a native speaker who is going to read the story for you, and you are going to listen the story. Also, there will be text for all these stories that you are going to listen for. So, by this, you are going to improve your listening and your speaking at the same time. Furthermore, you will improve your comprehension because I have prepared a list of all the difficult words which will appear in the story that may be difficult for you to understand them. So you don't have to worry about those words and searching their meanings. There is a list of all the difficult words at the end of each story. So you are about to improve your vocabulary as well. I should tell you that this lesson is designed to match A2 and B1 levels. So if you are in one of those levels, this lesson is perfect for you. But if your level is not A2 and B1, and if you want to have the same lesson as this one, just leave a comment and tell me your level, and I'm going to make a lesson the same as this one that matches your level. So without any further ado, let's begin our lesson.
Mr. Hodge was a chicken farmer. He had hundreds of chickens and sold the eggs and the meat and got quite a lot of money for them. But he lived in a very hot part of the country, and he found that his hens laid hardly any eggs in the summer. So he decided to put air conditioning into his chicken house, so that the hens would lay well all through the year, and he could get more eggs, and in that way earn more money. The owner of the company which sold the air conditioning came to see him, and when he saw Mr. Hodge's house, he thought that he might be able to persuade him to buy some air conditioning for that too. "Your wife would be much happier and more comfortable then," he said to Mr. Hodge. But Mr. Hodge was not interested. "My wife doesn't lay eggs," he said.
Exercise A. Which of these sentences are true and which are false? Write T or F in the boxes. Number 1.
Mr. Hodge's chickens laid a lot of eggs when the weather was hot.
Number 2.
Mr. Hodge wanted air conditioning for his chickens.
Number 3.
The owner of the air conditioning company sent a man to see Mr. Hodge.
Number 4.
The owner of the company wanted to sell as much air conditioning as possible.
Number 5.
Mr. Hodge agreed to have air conditioning in his house too.
Number 6.
Air conditioning in his house would not bring him more money.
Exercise B. Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What work did Mr. Hodge do?
Number 2.
How did he earn his money?
Number 3.
Why did he not get so much money in the summer?
Number 4.
Where did he decide to put air conditioning?
Number 5.
Why did he decide this?
Number 6.
What did the owner of the air conditioning company hope to do?
Number 7.
What reason did he give for having air conditioning in the house?
Number 8.
What did Mr. Hodge answer?
George Banks was a clever journalist. He worked for a good newspaper, and he liked arguing very much. He argued with anybody and about anything. Sometimes the people whom he argued with were as clever as he was, but often they were not. He did not mind arguing with stupid people at all. He knew that he could never persuade them to agree, because they could never really understand what he was saying. And the stupider they were, the surer they were that they were right. But he often found that stupid people sometimes said very amusing things. At the end of one argument which George had with one of these less clever people, the man said something which George has always remembered, and which has always amused him. It was, "Well, sir, you should never forget this. There are always 3 answers to every question. Your answer, my answer, and the correct answer."
Exercise A. Which of these sentences are true and which are false? Write T or F in the boxes. Number 1.
George only argued with people who were less clever than he was.
Number 2.
Stupid people understood what he said because he spoke very clearly.
Number 3.
Stupid people believed that they were always right.
Number 4.
George was sometimes amused by stupid people.
Number 5.
The stupid man thought that both he and George were wrong.
Number 6.
George soon forgot what this man had said.
Exercise B. Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What was George's job?
Number 2.
What did he work for?
Number 3.
What was his hobby?
Number 4.
Why did he not mind arguing with stupid people?
Number 5.
How did stupid people argue?
Number 6.
Why did he enjoy that?
Number 7.
What did one stupid person say to George?
Number 8.
What did George think of this answer?
Pat came over from Ireland to England with his wife one year to find work. He got quite a good job with a building company, and as he didn't drink or smoke, he saved up quite a lot of money. His wife's parents were still in Ireland, and one day she got a telegram to say that her mother was ill. So Pat gave her some money, and she went to Ireland to see her. After a week, Pat wanted to write a letter to her, but he couldn't read or write very well, so he went to his priest and asked him to do it for him. Pat told the priest what he wanted to say, and the priest wrote it down. After a few minutes, Pat stopped, and the priest said, "Do you want to say any more? Only, please excuse the bad writing and spelling," Pat said.
Exercise A. Which of these sentences are true and which are false? Write T or F in the boxes. Number 1.
Pat brought his wife to England with him.
Number 2.
He did not spend all his money.
Number 3.
His mother-in-law came to England too, because she was ill.
Number 4.
Pat went to see his mother-in-law because she was ill.
Number 5.
Pat wrote a letter to his wife after a week.
Number 6.
He asked his wife to excuse the priest's bad writing and spelling.
Exercise B. Now answer these questions. Number 1.
Why did Pat come to England?
Number 2.
How did he manage to save money?
Number 3.
Why did his wife have to go to Ireland?
Number 4.
What did Pat want to do a week later?
Number 5.
Why didn't he write the letter?
Number 6.
Who wrote it for him?
Number 7.
What did the priest say after Pat had finished?
Number 8.
And what did Pat answer?
Mark went to a barber's shop and had his hair cut. But when he came out, he was not happy with the result. And when his friend George saw him, he laughed and said, "What's happened to your hair, Mark?" Mark said, "I tried a new barber shop today because I wasn't at all satisfied with my old one, but this one seems even worse." George agreed. "Yes, I think you're right, Mark. Now I'll tell you what to do next time you go into a barber shop. Look at all the barber's hair, and then go to the one whose own hair has been cut the worst." "The one whose hair's been cut the worst?" Mark repeated. "But that would be foolish." "Oh, no, it wouldn't," answered George. "Who do you think cut that man's hair? He couldn't cut it himself, could he? Another of the barbers cut it. And he must have been a worse barber than the one whose hair he cut."
Exercise A. Which of these sentences are true and which are false? Write T or F in the boxes. Number 1.
Mark's hair was cut badly.
Number 2.
He had not been to that barber's shop before.
Number 3.
It was better than the one he used to go to before.
Number 4.
His friend George advised him to choose the barber whose hair looked the worst.
Number 5.
Barbers cut each other's hair.
Number 6.
The barber whose hair is cut the worst cannot be the worst barber.
Exercise B. Now answer these questions. Number 1.
How did Mark feel when he came out of the barber's shop?
Number 2.
What did his friend George do when he saw him?
Number 3.
And what did George say?
Number 4.
What was Mark's answer?
Number 5.
What did George suggest then?
Number 6.
And what did Mark answer?
Number 7.
What did George say then?
Number 8.
Which barber would have the best haircut?
Mrs. Harris's husband died when she was 45 years old. She had a son who was 18 years old at that time. Mrs. Harris was not a widow for very long. She met a nice man who was a few years older than she was. and 2 years after her first husband had died, she married for the second time. Her son Peter was 20 years old then. Mrs. Harris had a nice quiet wedding in the village church, and after that they had the usual party at her house for her family and her new husbands, and for some of their friends. But Peter was very late for the party. At last he hurried in, kissed his mother and said, "I'm sorry I'm late, Mum, but I've been looking everywhere for a card which says, 'To my mother for her wedding,' and I haven't been able to find one."
Exercise A. Which of these sentences are true and which are false? Write T or F in the boxes. Number 1.
Mrs. Harris was 25 when Peter was born.
Number 2.
She was 47 when she married her second husband.
Number 3.
She married him at her house in the village.
Number 4.
Peter was in a card shop when his mother's wedding party started.
Number 5.
He found the card he wanted in the last shop he went to.
Number 6.
He did not find the card he wanted.
Exercise B. Now answer these questions. Number 1.
Why did Mrs. Harris marry when she was 47?
Number 2.
Who was Peter?
Number 3.
How old was he then?
Number 4.
What kind of wedding did Mrs. Harris have?
Number 5.
What happened after the wedding?
Number 6.
Why was Peter late?
Number 7.
What had he been looking for?
Number 8.
Why hadn't he been able to find it?